Long before the Roman legions, before Egyptian pharaohs built the pyramids, even before the Bible was written, there was Sumer. Hidden beneath the sands of southern Iraq lies the story of humanity's very first civilization. They built the first cities, invented writing, measured time, and then disappeared. This is the story of the Sumerians, a people who changed the world before the world even knew it had begun. Sumer lay in the southern part of Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, a region historians call the cradle of civilization. This area is now in modern-day southern Iraq near the Persian Gulf. Though it's dry and harsh today, the Sumerians transformed it into a fertile heartland using intricate irrigation canals to harness the river waters. By 3500 BCE, they had built the world's first true cities, like Eridu, Uruk, Ur, Lagash, and Nippur. In Sumer, life revolved around the city-state. Each city had its own king, its own god, and its own identity. People lived in tightly packed mud-brick homes. Men might work as farmers, potters, merchants, or scribes. Women managed households, some were even priestesses. Children learned by copying cuneiform on clay. Towering above everything was the ziggurat, a stepped temple pyramid that linked earth to heaven. These were not places for worshippers, but homes for the gods. The Sumerians were inventors at heart. Around 3200 BCE, they created cuneiform, the first writing system in human history. They began with simple pictographs to track trade and agriculture, but over time these evolved into a complex written language used for poems, prayers, laws, and myths. But they didn't stop with writing. They were among the first to enter the Bronze Age. By mixing copper with tin, the Sumerians created bronze, a strong, durable metal that revolutionized tools, weapons, and daily life. Farmers now had tougher plow blades, builders had sharper chisels, and soldiers carried bronze-tipped spears and axes into battle. They also invented the wheel, first for pottery, then for carts and wagons. They pioneered irrigation canals, levees, and the plow, transforming arid land into thriving fields. Even our way of measuring time, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, comes from their sexagesimal number system. Much like civilization today, Sumerian city-states didn't live in peace. They often fought for water, farmland, or power. Each city had its own army, and Sumerians developed some of the earliest military formations and siege tactics in history. They used bronze-tipped spears, bows, axes, and sickle-shaped swords. Soldiers wore leather helmets and carried rectangular shields. Chariots, more like heavy carts pulled by donkeys, appeared as early shock troops. Wars were brutal, but also organized. Cities recorded battles, peace treaties, and even war propaganda, carved in stone. Among the Sumerians' greatest legacies is the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest known story, written over 4,000 years ago on clay tablets in the cuneiform script. We don't know the exact author, this wasn't the age of bylines, but the version we know best comes from the library of Ashurbanipal, a later Assyrian king who preserved the tale centuries after its Sumerian origins. Still, echoes of it were told long before in the temples and taverns of ancient Mesopotamia. It tells the story of Gilgamesh, the mighty king of Uruk, 2/3 god, 1/3 man, on a desperate quest to escape death. After the death of his closest companion, the wild man Enkidu, Gilgamesh sets out to find eternal life. He crosses deserts, faces divine beings, and meets Utnapishtim, a survivor of a great flood sent by the gods. Yes, a flood. The story describes how the gods, angered by humanity, unleashed a deluge to wipe them out. Utnapishtim builds a boat, saves his family and animals, and is granted immortality. This flood tale predates the story of Noah in the Hebrew Bible by centuries, and some scholars believe it inspired parts of Genesis. But the Epic of Gilgamesh is more than myth. It's about loss, grief, friendship, and the terrifying realization that even kings die. It's a reflection on what it means to live and how to make a life matter when nothing lasts forever. The gods in the story were Sumerian deities like Anu, the sky god, Enlil, god of wind and storms, and Inanna, goddess of love and war. They weren't distant, all-powerful creators. These gods were emotional, flawed, and terrifyingly human, mirroring the unpredictable world the Sumerians lived in. In the end, Gilgamesh fails to gain immortality, but he returns to Uruk with a new understanding that his true legacy is not eternal life, but the walls he built, the people he led, and the stories still told thousands of years later. This wasn't just the first great story, it was the first great question about why we're here and what we leave behind. By 2000 BCE, the age of the Sumerians was coming to an end. Their once powerful city-states, Uruk, Ur, Lagash, had grown vulnerable. Political fragmentation, internal strife, and devastating environmental shifts, like the salinization of farmland, eroded their stability. Then came the invaders. First, the Akkadians under Sargon the Great swept through Mesopotamia, forging the world's first true empire. Though they conquered the Sumerians, they didn't erase them. They absorbed them. Sumerian gods, stories, and writing became part of Akkadian life. Later, the Amorites would rise and build Babylon. Still later, the Assyrians. Each new power stood on Sumerian shoulders, inheriting their innovations and reshaping them. Though the Sumerian language eventually vanished from everyday use, it was preserved for centuries in temples and scribal schools, much like Latin after the fall of Rome. The Sumerians were remembered as the first to write, to rule, to build, to ask the big questions. And in truth, they never really disappeared. Today, we still count in multiples of 60, thanks to their base 60 number system. We divide hours into 60 minutes, circles into 360 degrees. We write with letters and symbols because they invented writing. We organize cities, pass laws, build temples, all echoes of what they began. Their myths still breathe in our religions, their stories shape our stories, and their inventions scaffold our world. The Sumerians may be gone, but echoes of their valor can still be seen to this day. Sumer wasn't just the first civilization, it was humanity's first great experiment. They were the first to ask, how should we live? What should we build? Who are we beneath the stars? They shaped the foundations of cities, stories, time itself, and their legacy still pulses beneath our own. If this video brought ancient Sumer back to life for you, give it a like and subscribe for more lost worlds and forgotten empires.